In this video, you will see how to set up guide grids and apply them to sheet views. And you will also see how to align views on sheets using the guide grid. I have the exercise file, Align Views, open. And in this file, we are looking at the floor to furniture plan. And we can see in the project browser that we also have furniture plans for floors 3 and 4. We need to place these views onto sheets and achieve a consistent presentation to have the views in the same location on the drawing sheets so that any differences in the layout are easily seen when swapping between the drawings. So first, let's create a new sheet to place the first view onto. And to do this, we'll go to the View ribbon tab, and from the Sheet Composition panel, we'll click to create a new sheet. So now we'll choose the E1 30 by 42 horizontal title block, and then click OK to create that new drawing sheet. So we can see it's been created here, and if I expand out the Sheets group in the project browser, we can see it there. It's currently unnamed, so let's right click over this and we'll choose Rename. And we'll change its name to be Level 2 Furniture. And then we'll click OK to save that new name. So now we want to place the view onto the sheet. So to do this, we'll go back to the View ribbon tab, and from the Sheet Composition panel here, we'll click View to place view on a sheet. And now from the list of views, we'll choose the Floor to Furniture plan here, and then click Add View to Sheet. And now it's attached to our cursor, so we can just move to place it near the center of the sheet here. So now that we have that view placed on the sheet, we'll create a guide grid and align it to this view, and we can then use that guide grid for the other sheets. So we'll go to the View ribbon tab. From the Sheet Composition panel, we'll click the Guide Grid button. And now we need to create a new guide grid, so we'll name this Furniture Plan Grid. And then we'll click OK, and straight away we can see that guide grid is now placed on the drawing sheet. So I'll pick on the edge of the guide grid to select it. And now, looking at the Properties palette, we have a parameter for guide spacing, and we'll change this to be 4 inches. And once that's applied, we can see that that grid is now much bigger and will be easier to work with. So now we'll just use the drag controls here to resize it closer to the size of the view. And now we can move the guide grid to align to the actual view itself. So zooming in a little bit closer, we can see we have the intersection of grid line 1 and C. And we'll move the intersection of the guide grid to that location. So with the guide grid selected, we'll go to the Modify ribbon tab and we'll click on the Move tool. And looking at the options bar, we'll uncheck the Constrain option here so that we can move it diagonally. And now I'll choose the intersection of the guide grid here as the start point. And now we can snap to the intersection of the grid 1 and C in the model. And we now have that guide grid aligned to the grid within the view. So now we need to create the next sheet to place the Floor 3 furniture plan on. And to do this, we'll duplicate this drawing sheet. So in the project browser, we'll right click over this sheet and we'll choose Duplicate Sheet and then Duplicate with Sheet Detailing. And now we'll get a duplicate of this sheet with the guide grid already applied, but without the view. So looking in the project browser, we need to rename it. So we'll right click and choose Rename. And we'll change its name to read Level 3 Furniture. And then click OK to save that new name. And now we need to place the view onto this sheet. So we'll go back to the View ribbon tab. And from the Sheet Composition panel here, we'll click the Place View on Sheet button. And from the list of views, we'll select the Floor 3 Furniture plan. And then click Add View to Sheet. Now we can't snap it straight to the guide grid, so we'll just place it into the view in approximately the right location. Now we just need to move it into the correct location, so we'll go to the Modify ribbon tab here and click the Move tool. Now if I zoom in a little bit closer, I can choose the intersection of grid lines 1 and C in the view as the start point, and then we can snap it to the grid intersection here to get that into the correct location. So now we'll repeat this process. So in the project browser, we'll right click over the view and choose duplicate sheet, and then duplicate with sheet detailing. And then we'll right click and rename this new sheet, and we'll name it to be level 4 furniture, and then click OK to save that name. And this time we'll go to the project browser and we'll select the floor 4 furniture view here, and then we can drag it out into the view and then click to place it in approximately the right location. And then again, whilst the view is still selected, we can click on the Move tool from the Modify ribbon and snap to the grid intersection of the grid line 1 and C for the start point, and then we move it to the intersection of the guide grid, and we now have that view in the correct location as well. So now that we have the views placed, we no longer need to see the guide grid. So we can go to the Properties palette, and at the bottom here we can see we have the parameter for guide grid, and we'll click on the drop down list and we'll change it to be none. And using this parameter we can always bring the grid back if we need to, just by clicking on the drop down list there and choosing the furniture plan grid, and that grid will come back onto the sheet in the same location. So I'll set it back to none. Now I'll swap to the level 3 furniture plan view and set that guide grid parameter to none. And then also for the level 2 furniture plan. And now we have those 3 plans set up, and as we swap between them we can see that the model is in the exact same location, and that makes it easier to spot the changes between the office layouts and the furniture and completes aligning the views on the sheets.